So the Supreme Court I think it was last term, uh, said that it was unacceptable relative to affirmative action in college admissions that race be a factor that is considered because affirmative action in college admissions typically is to the detriment of white men. That same Supreme Court last week said that it's perfectly acceptable for law enforcement to use race and racial profiling in ICE raids in throughout Los Angeles. And Charlie Kirk, who spoke often of race and black people, like Martin Luther King, he was permitted to say, because we have a First Amendment in this country, he was permitted to say that George Floyd was a scumbag, even though George Floyd was a father. He had kids. I've heard that a lot from folks on the right about Charlie Kirk. How can you say mean things about Charlie Kirk? He was a father. He had kids. George Floyd had kids. You guys still make memes about him to this day. You make fun of his death. And Charlie Kirk said Martin Luther King was an awful human being, that passing the Civil Rights Act was one of the worst mistakes this country ever made, and that if he's dealing with someone in customer service, I can't remember the exact, he used some very insulting language about black women and their mental capacities, that he had to wonder whether or not they were there because of their skill set or because they had taken that job from a white person. But if we don't grieve his death and honor him in death in a way that is sufficiently subservient to you inbred fart huffing mouth breathing MAGA chuds, the Trump taint sniffers, MAGA, then you think it's okay, even though we still have the First Amendment, you think it's okay to engage in doxing campaigns to get people fired from their jobs. Because you guys are little bitches. You are, yeah. You really are. I mean, it's like one thing that I have appreciated about the last 4 or 5 days is that yet again, man, it has been an absolutely undeniable, tangible, real-time, ongoing example. The cancel culture that you have decried for years, you have screamed your hearts out against cancel culture. Now you love it. Now you love it. Now you think it's the best thing since sliced bread. And it has, the last several days have also, to me, just completely finished the process of ripping the mask off of modern Republican evangelical Christianity. Because before I thought that you guys just kind of brushed aside Charlie Kirk's overt, unabashed, unapologetic racism, bigotry, homophobia, transphobia, and misogyny. Before I had thought you guys were just kind of like, well, yeah, I mean, yeah. Now I have realized, now I've realized the last several days have shown me quite clearly two things. One, Charlie Kirk, over the last 13 years that he's been running Turning Points USA and saying the things that he's been saying, he demonstrated quite clearly to people on that side of the aisle that you can say this racist, just heinous, homophobic, transphobic, misogynistic, bigoted shit without getting canceled. Two, modern Republican evangelical Christianity has fully incorporated that explicit racism, misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, and bigotry into its version of evangelical Christianity. Those are now a part of modern Republican evangelical Christianity. It is a part of the doctrine now. I mean, how, because here was my disconnect. Here was my disconnect over the last week. I'd be like, how can he be saying these unimaginably heinous, disgusting things? And all of these people think that he's a man of God preaching the good word of the Lord, because that's all part of their version of the good word of the Lord. That shit, and that's what it is. It's pure fucking hatred and excrement. That is now fully incorporated into their spiritual practice, into their Christianity, into their fellowship. That vileness is now all a part of their worship. I mean, I mentioned earlier in a quick TikTok I did today that I saw a comment on somebody else's video that said the only thing that Jesus Christ and Charlie Kirk had in common is that Republicans get extremely angry when you quote Jesus or Charlie Kirk to them, when you quote them to him. Charlie Kirk and MAGA would think that Jesus Christ was a woke, commie, socialist libtard if he were to come back today. And after his death, I discovered on my own page that when you use direct quotes from Charlie Kirk on those subject areas, Republicans get extremely angry. If I get on a plane and I see a black pilot, I think to myself, boy, I hope he's qualified. And MAGA is like, you're taking that out of context. When you say you're taking it out of context, what you're saying is that by adding the full context changes the meaning of the quote. Turns out that it doesn't. Oftentimes, the full context makes it worse. He didn't think women should have the right to vote. All of that excrement has now been fully incorporated into the practices, the worship, the fellowship, the preaching, the principles, the foundations of modern evangelical Republican Christianity. And they have completely, I mean completely, rejected in their entirety the actual words and teachings of Jesus Christ, the guy they claim to worship. That's fucking wild.